Hi, welcome to Booze and Booze with Carter Owens. I'm your host, joined by my two fellow guests.
We've been hijacked.
These guys.
I've lost control of my own content. This is a great start. Welcome to Booze and Booze. This is try number 3. We're about to drink alcohol and watch a god-awful movie and then talk about it.
It's going to be fun.
I'm Preston. I am joined by my typical co-host of the podcast.
Hey, where's my usual adjective?
Typical.
Typical?
You're typical for this one.
I'm disappointed is what I am.
A disappointed co-host.
Matt. I mean,
Matt Bat.
Ham Tab.
Tim Tab.
And
Ham Tab.
and having already made his power known on the episode, we're joined by our lovely guest Carter.
Hi, I don't like scary movies.
Don't you?
No?
Oh no! We made a horrible mistake. Welcome to Booze and Booze.
We just watched Jason X. And
We got some
it's
thoughts.
bad.
Welcome to Booze and Booze, a series where we watch terrible movies and talk about them. I am the host, Preston, joined commonly by my delightful co-host.
You remembered my adjective. I'm so delighted. Matt. That's me.
And for this episode, we were joined by our friend Carter.
Yeah, I'm here
Is he
all
our
the time.
friend?
He's here. He's a regular.
The inimitable Carter Owens.
Inimitable Carter.
Inimitable.
Read
Yeah.
that.
Try saying that one 10 times fast after.
All
you've
right,
had
so
3
here's
beers.
the synopsis for the movie we just watched.
Mhm.
And I have not read this at all. This is totally cold. Here we go. Oh, it moved up. The year is 2455. The place is Old Earth. Once the shimmering blue jewel of the galaxy, Old Earth is now a contaminated planet, abandoned for centuries. Yet humans have returned to the deadly place that they once fled, not to live, but to research the ancient civilization, rustling art. I messed that up.
Keep going.
Roll with it.
Yet humans have returned to the deadly place they once fled, not to live, but to research the ancient rustling artifacts of the bygone civilizations that caused this environmental disaster. And little does the most recent landing party of intrepid young explorers. See, we know
We're
what
gonna have to
happens
truck
now.
through this.
We know what happens now. It reloaded.
You're really struggling, Carter. This is embarrassing for you.
Should I read it?
No.
Should I read it?
And little does the most recent landing party of intrepid young explorers realize the fate that awaits them.
That doesn't feel grammatically correct.
Jason X. Jason Voorhees goes to space.
Oh my god.
That is the one sentence synopsis that the director of the movie brought to New Line, and where they were just like,
Okay, guys,
"Fuck it, sure."
guys listen. I got this idea. You know, we've done Jason. We've done Jason on on the
literally-
lake. We've done Jason
In hell.
in hell.
Jason on a boat.
We bring Jason to
Jason on a
space.
boat?
Yeah, that's what Jason Takes Manhattan is.
take-
It's mostly just him on a boat.
Oh, interesting.
We take Jason and we put him in space.
But we don't call him Spacin.
No. We call it
I'm out. I'm off.
Jason X.
So-
Because X says
Because
space.
because it's like X-Men. Because that was
The
popular.
whole intro will be just like X-Men.
That actually explains a lot now that I think about it.
It was so bad.
You know, not me calling it out while watching the movie.
Oh no, you didn't.
No, not
100%.
that.
So let's talk about real quick the premise of Jason Voorhees in space. A slasher in space.
You had
splasher?
potential, other than the fact that Alien did
Would
it.
you quit with your puns?
No.
It has potential. There's an interesting dynamic in bringing a slasher who we typically associate with our urban threat. Slashers typically invade us in where we are most content, which
No,
is
Yeah.
either
I
be
mean, I wouldn't say content because most. I mean,
he-
Friday the
yeah.
13th, Crystal Lake.
You're out of your
It's-
comfort zone.
Yeah,
You're
you're
out by the
you're
lake,
out
you're-
at summer camp. You're
Yeah.
by the lake, getting frisky.
That
oh
no,
there's
I
a
know
serial killer.
I get what you're saying though. He's an analog threat, not
Yeah.
a digital threat.
yeah. And
Until Jason 12, Jason in cyberspace.
we haven't done our slasher episode yet. This is being recorded early, so we haven't done the full analysis on
Right.
why slashers succeed. But I think when you put it in context of Freddy Krueger, who comes to you in your dreams, which is something you can't escape.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Myers,
That's
which
a bad
is,
and ineffective slasher. I'll say that.
we'll talk about that. Apparently,
Yeah.
we have apparently talked about that. I guess.
Yep.
Michael Myers, who comes to you in your home, in your town, your suburban town, like that's kind of primarily the
I do
the
see.
realm of Michael Myers, and taking a slasher genre, which is apparently so much invested in just the common livelihood of what you do. Like Crystal Lake is you go camping with your friends.
So we'll get into this more, but we've talked about this in the past too. The slasher genre is in some ways a manifestation on film of the threat of interpersonal violence with like spiking murder rates in the 70s and stuff. And so there does have to be a sense that like you're in the victim's shoes. It has to be a real world imaginable scenario.
Yeah.
So when you take it to space, it completely removes that from the equation.
It does. It
Yeah.
puts you in both an unfamiliar situation and an uncomfortable situation.
Right.
And when you remove, we talked about how the new Chucky movie actually, like, they do a good job of removing the things that make us comfortable, like home security. You have a point.
But the difference is that is you can imagine yourself being in their shoes. This
Yeah.
you can't imagine yourself in
No.
2455. The problem is you lose that inherent tension of
Yeah.
like imagining yourself in the victim scenario.
And I think that is maybe one of the main reasons that this fails to be a scary movie.
It fails as a pure let's cut 'em up slasher.
I was at no point. I know there was one point where you said there was actual tension that was happening.
Mm-hmm.
I was at no point scared.
Same.
I was at no point really that tense because it
Same.
was like, oh no, they're gonna die. I had no investment in any of the characters. The only one I had a modicum of investment was the girl that was frozen from the beginning.
Yeah.
Spoiler.
Spoiler from the thing that happens.
I don't know
in the
which
first-
camera
Yeah.
to look at when I look straight
just-
at camera
we're looking
still.
at that
but
one.
We're
There
looking at that one. Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking at that one. I just touched the camera.
Wow, this is going great. Woo!
Let me also
Look
just
at the
say,
cameraman. Everyone stare at the camera.
Stare at Roddy.
let me also just say it was a huge mistake to wear my pants backwards when I knew I was going to drink alcohol and have to pee.
Why do you still have them on back?
No, they're not.
That's
He's
No, they
Oh,
are.
they are.
They are. It's part of the
my-
costume.
Oh, I left my sunglasses in there. Dang
I think I did too. I think.
This is not the movie we're talking about.
it.
We're
Anyways,
talking about
Anyways,
Jason X.
my
Back to it.
points that I made were that.
So, well, hang on. So, I want to. We touched on this, and I want to talk about it.
Okay.
The fact that we had no remote connection to any of the characters.
No, not at all.
That
Right.
is, I
we
think.
thought me and Matt both thought that 3 of them were the same person for a period of time.
Yeah.
There was
Boobs
a-
one,
there-
boobs 2, and boobs
Until
3.
one of them died and 2 of them appeared on screen at the same time.
Yeah.
The characters. It does a horrible job of introducing how many characters? Would you say 12?
Oh my gosh, no,
Roughly.
more than that. There's at least 15. 15 from the get-go.
15
Oh, wow,
characters
yeah.
to
I forgot about a
introduce
couple.
and instill a relationship with. And that's just not something that's very doable.
Nope.
Like, when you're talking about...
Well, and the other point was that there were no distinct roles.
Yeah.
It wasn't that, okay, we don't know the character, but
There
we know
was
their role.
there was the nerd.
So here's
There was the tough sergeant guy.
And there's
But
the
then there
people
was
that,
like
like,
8
live.
attractive females.
All right.
Yeah, it was nothing.
Let me say this though, y'all's premise is flawed. You're operating from the assumption that this is a normal movie where you have characters that you care about and you root it for them and you see them grow and
No,
struggle.
yeah,
That's not what this movie is
that's-
about. This movie is about watching people get stabbed in space.
This is true.
That's the only reason we come to see this. We want
But-
15 people that can get stabbed in space that we can identify.
Even
the ones that
on
aren't
that
attractive.
point, what? We all three of us agreed the first kill when he wakes up in the future was pretty brutal and was pretty like, oh snap, that was like, whoa.
Which one was the first kill?
When he stuck
Face
the
in the
chick's
sink.
frozen-
Oh, that's right, yeah.
The,
That was pretty cool.
the frozen yogurt.
That was alright.
Other than that, though, I don't feel like we got anything that was like, oh, like
yeah, not really.
you put him on a
Yeah.
spike, you know. Sorry, I just touched
I
the
mean,
mic.
Got screwed. The
I'll
screw one was
say-
The
good.
screw one was
So-
good.
I do want to say there were a few moments of good, like they'll set up the nanites and then those will come back. A couple little moments of setup and
Yeah.
planting. If they had planted that screw early somehow, don't know how they could have contrived that in there. But if they had done it, I would have been rooting for that so much
This
more.
was I mean, this suffered from a lot of the main problem of of poorly done slasher movies where when something happens we go, when was that ever a thing? When was that screw ever a thing?
Right.
And that plays to your point that like
needed to
if
have
they just
planted it.
established it in some way, they established the nanomites early.
Yeah.
And that was part of my problem that I was explaining was that, like, okay, the nanomites make sense for what happened later.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense for being on a spaceship.
Mhm.
What is the point of a giant screw sticking out of the floor on a spaceship?
You can contrive one. With a movie this dumb, you can make something
Yeah.
up and get away with it. That's the
Like,
thing.
Why
there's-
was
They
there
didn't.
a big anchor inside of the
Could-
same hangar that had the other large sharp object?
There's something to be said for
They
Because
made no indication that it was a mining vessel.
Because it's a spanker.
stop it with your there's something to be said with or something to be said for like dumb but good movies.
Mhm.
You can be dumb, but if your dumbness is just kind of neglectful of like planting and what's the word I'm looking for?
Payoff.
Payoff. Yeah, planting and payoff.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter. But if you're dumb, like you're like, oh yes, there is a giant screw in the building because of this stupid.
The escape pod
Future-
screws onto it.
Yeah, some stupid
Something
future
incredibly
reason.
dumb,
Yeah.
but
It explains it. But if he just like falls off a ledge and then lands on this screw that makes him do a little like fun.
it's still
Spin.
fun.
It's
still
fun.
fun.
But in the context of a movie, it's shit.
It didn't make any sense.
It didn't make any sense. And
We all laughed at it, but it was like.
But it
why?
wasn't a laugh
Right.
at it because, like, oh, that's kind of funny of this thing that we know of. It was like, where the fuck did this screw come
It
from?
was just a little bit surreal.
It was, and I think that there is something we could probably even do an episode on this of dumb movies that are still good somehow because they actually do decent like writing of like the actual script and the introduction and payoff of aspects. Like a dumb movie can still do that.
Yeah.
This is just a bad movie because it didn't do that. It distinguishes between dumb and bad.
Mhm.
I mean, you talk about
Yeah.
Speed all the time.
Speed Racer.
Speed Racer.
Speed is a legitimately good movie.
Okay, I still haven't seen that.
Objectively.
You talk about
Keanu
Speed
Reeves in
Racer.
Speed, that's a good movie.
Oh yeah.
Speed Racer. So this is I talk all the time. Speed Racer is my favorite movie of all time. It's not a great movie.
Andrew's just like, yeah.
It is not a great movie, but there were so many things that were going on. It also it came out alongside The Dark Knight, so no one saw it. But the Wachowskis do a really good job of just making you feel invested in this thing that you otherwise would not be invested in, which makes the plot better, and therefore you care about the characters.
I mean, that's I think the biggest, fault of bad. I think if you took the percentage of why bad slasher movies fail,
It's because you have no investment.
it's the characters.
Yeah.
And like we kind of had some vague relationship with the girl from the past.
She's
Because
cute.
you were like, oh, she's from the past. She knows Jason. Yeah.
and
Yeah,
you
like-
said she's cute.
But
She's cute.
It's part of it.
I mean,
other
yeah.
than the pervy pilot,
the pervy pilot
That
was
was-
like,
that was
oh, a
so
female?
early
Oh,
on.
I'm
and
immediately
she's
so
single.
hard.
I'm so lonely.
There was no
'Cause that makes it okay.
reason for us to like it. I mean,
No.
it's even like there's the couple that they literally do sex. They do
that
the
was their entire trope was to be the young couple having sex.
Yeah, and
We like premarital sex.
Woo.
I'll
Which
get
then
into
the movie parodied itself.
I'll go into that in
Yeah,
a little bit,
we'll
but
get
I want
into
to
that. That
talk
was
about
good.
the fact that like they use the fact that a relationship is a thing in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a review on Fantastic Beasts and the Crimes of Grindelwald. And they tried to pay off of the relationship between whoever the fuck was in it and his girlfriend. But they had no establishment of the relationship, so no one gave a shit. But what is happening? Sorry. I got distracted. There's no establishment of that relationship, so even if we didn't care about the characters,
Don't look at me.
Exclusively?
I haven't seen this movie.
no, for Jason X,
Oh, okay.
the two characters that had sex and died, and the guy died while having sex. I
There
don't
were
care
only
about
two
spoilers.
characters that had sex and died. I think there
Yeah,
were
he
at
died
least
immediately,
3
and
couples.
She commits suicide in the spaceship
Yes.
Well, by accident. But
by accident.
we didn't have any reason that we
To-
liked
yeah.
the relationship. I think that
No.
when you come to a situation where there's so many characters, you could remove the individualism of a specific character if you take two of them, put them in a relationship, and make us care about the relationship. I don't care about the characters, but I care about the relationship.
I
So
think-
while they're having sex and Jason shows up and stabs a guy, then you feel the sadness of the breaking of the relationship, not the character.
You're coming at it from the wrong angle, though. You're
No,
coming at
and
it from
that's-
the angle that you have something to care about with the victims.
That's what I mean. I'm with Matt on the fact that this movie is not about caring about the victims. You're caring about Jason. But I guess my problem, the fact that I haven't seen all of the Friday the 13th movies, I have no investment in Jason. I just showed up here knowing we were going to watch this movie and going to, get a little tipsy. And
Little.
I-
Okay.
nothing about this movie was in any way that was like, yeah, I
So-
enjoyed this. It was just kind of crap from start to finish.
So the struggle of the movie was that it's not that we didn't feel for the victims. It's that
I didn't feel for the
we didn't feel
The
any,
bad guy
any
either.
challenge. Like
No.
a good movie,
Yeah.
basically, if you look at any good movie, there is a challenge of the main character that they have to overcome. And at the very
This is-
beginning, you're like, how are they going to do this? But if you're looking at a slasher movie and the main character is the slasher, and you're like, oh, I want a good movie from the perspective of the slasher, there needs to be some sort of element where Jason is trying to put together puzzles to murder people.
I think you're still coming at this from the wrong angle. It's
no,
not.
no, from the
it's not,
perspective of Jason.
It's
No,
it's
I
not
think
even.
he's
It's
right on that.
it's
If-
not even meant to be a.
If this was going to movie that was going to, if this was a movie that was purely about Jason, I mean, the movie's titled Jason X.
Yeah.
Right.
The movie should have been, I mean, in a flip perspective,
Right.
we should have had a protagonistic approach to Jason killing people.
Watching
Exactly.
him solving
We should have-
problems.
Yeah,
We should have been
that's what I
rooting
said. It's
for
like
him
Right.
to kill
we
all
want
these people.
Jason to have to solve puzzles. Like
That wasn't what it was supposed to be either, though. It was supposed to be just to turn your brain off. We get both perspectives. It's almost like a sports
if I
movie.
had
You're
paid
watching
money
the two
for
sides.
this movie, if
play
I
a
was
game.
seeing this movie in 2000 or whenever it
Mm-hmm.
came out, and I had paid money for it, I would be disappointed.
Yeah.
I am glad that I did not spend money to just watch
If I
the
had
movie,
paid-
and he did.
If I had paid,
$3.
if I had paid money to
Worth
watch,
it for the millions of ad revenue we're gonna get from this YouTube video.
if I had paid to watch this movie in 2000, I would have been 4 years old and scarred for life.
Yeah.
I think the
Yeah.
problem is like the thing is, this is a bad slasher movie, and it's not alone. There
No.
are a ton of bad slasher movies, but I think that this, regardless of what makes this movie bad, there are still, if you boil it down to the essence of why this movie failed,
Well,
it
had
is
no-
the same reasons that other bad slasher movies have failed.
It had no twist. It had no surprise. It had nothing that was like, oh, okay, that was redeemable.
Yeah, the twist-
Nothing about it
Okay.
at the end.
You know, that being said, so not only did I wear this excellent costume where I put all my clothes backwards and it looks on, there's a reason.
Excellent.
I'm insulted by that, but we'll move past it. The reason is if this movie ever got really terrible, I could go like this and block it out. And I never felt the need to do that. I was having fun the whole time.
That's the thing is like that's what I want to. That's the point of Booze and Booze in general. If I want to get a little meta with it, is I want to be doing movies that are entertaining but bad. Because we did Fantastic or Fanforstic, which was
Correct.
it was the three of us, and it was just bad. But it wasn't a bad that it was just like it's still enjoyable. It was just a existentially bad movie, and that doesn't make for a good content. So we're doing movies that are like, you know what, this is still kind of fun, even though that special effects.
I would not suggest watching this movie sober.
No.
Yeah, absolutely not. Yeah.
I mean, I just watched Twilight High, and that was the only way that I was able to truck all the way through it.
Yep. We'll probably have to redo that for Booze and Booze at some point.
You did not have a teenage sister that was obsessed with Twilight when
No, I did
Twilight
not.
was coming out. So
But I think, but again, back to my point is that this movie, whatever reasons you find it that it is bad, it boils down to the same reasons that every bad slasher is bad. Is that it doesn't have a protagonist. It has the victims and it has the murderer.
yeah,
But it doesn't have a protagonist.
There was no protagonist through this movie.
And you
No,
can
there
choose.
wasn't.
You
Yeah,
can
no,
choose
yeah.
one or the other, and it can still make a good like. You could take any movie like, let's
The
say, Quiet
opening
Place.
scene.
Quiet Place is vaguely a slasher if you take by the element that there are things that slash and murder, but our protagonists are the victims. So you build a relationship with the victims, or you take a good slasher movie where the protagonist is the slasher, and you give them a challenge to overcome, which is he's in space. Maybe we find out why it's so restrictive on him to do what he does. But the problem is, prior to this movie, you had to have established the fact that like why he wants to murder people.
So we need to have watched the previous 9 movies in order to understand this.
I don't think even if it's a sequel,
We need to stop the episode right now, and we need to go back and watch the previous 9 movies
Time
so we
out.
can have
We're
the
gonna watch some
proper.
more.
No! I think if you take any person who is a movie buff, someone that watches a lot of movies, whether it be from technical perspectives like our crew or like from us that just watch a lot of movies,
I live under a
Even-
rock, so
even if you watch a movie that's the 11th in the series, it should still be a good movie.
but that is
You shouldn't
that,
need to have to follow 10 other movies.
That is purely the point of if you've never seen Batman Begins, Dark Knight still holds up on its
Exactly.
own entirely.
Yep.
Exactly.
If you know nothing about Batman, The Dark Knight still holds up.
You
on
understand
its
there's
own
a
entirely.
guy who dresses up as a bat and beats the shit out of people.
Yeah.
That's what you need to know because the development of the plot and development of character comes from what is established in the movie itself. It's a
Yes.
self-contained movie. When you'll get complementary information from previous movies, but this movie, if you were going to understand this movie on a deep level of why does Jason do what he does,
I have no idea.
you
from
have
watching
no
that
idea. He's just this guy that was
He's killed 200 people, and he is a celebrity in space history. Ooh.
I guess that people
Jason
apparently know
Voorhees?
about him.
Ooh, Ted Bundy. Ooh.
But it didn't
Mystery?
stop it. You can't understand anything about any character at any point. And so it makes the movie, while we talk about casual moviegoers quite often on our podcast, people that have not been enlightened,
People like him.
people like it. No, Carter's been enlightened. He's seen movies and been able to understand why movies are good. But
Excuse you.
if some
I had shell shock after 1917. Excuse you.
if some group
Fair.
of 16-year-olds goes to see this movie, they can go, it's a dude that just murders a whole bunch of people.
Yeah, dude.
Cool. But when you start looking at it critically or enlightenedly, flashing back to our
This
episode,
movie has
there's nothing. There's no
Nah.
like.
no substance at all.
I'm currently in a phase of my writing, script development, or my creative development where everything I care about is character.
Oh, this was the wrong
There's
movie for you,
jack
son.
shit in this movie.
Yeah.
There's
Nothing at all.
from any of the characters, and that's something that is just
The
it's been
character that I feel like got the most character development was the total like dick general at the beginning that showed up was like, I'm taking this guy. We're gonna transport him 'cause he's special.
I forgot that scene happened.
I know, and then that was all his character was. I feel like I had the best understanding of who that character was from that one scene, and that was all he had.
Yeah.
No one else throughout the entire time was like, none of these people are fitting like an archetype or anything.
It doesn't. It doesn't fit any archetypes. It does. Well, I mean, it fits the horror archetypes.
Yeah.
It satisfies the
Roughly.
horror. I mean,
loosely though, it was just kind of like, and that's the person that has sex, and that's the nerd.
well, that's the thing. That's the horror
But it
archetypes.
wasn't-
There's the nerd. There's the virgin. There's the horny couple. There's the guy who's a badass. There's like those are
The
like.
virgin.
We've
was
all
an
seen Cabin in
android?
the Woods.
I guess the virgin was. Huh?
We've all seen Cabin in the
Yeah,
Woods.
Cabin in the Woods does an amazing job of parodying.
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 I know about Cabin in the Woods, but I haven't.
It does an amazing job of parodying slasher
I know about
horror
it.
movies.
I know the premise. I know the premise.
That doesn't make it better.
I know the premise though. I would like to see it. I just never have gotten around to it.
So the characters of
Yes.
this movie are not.
They fit the roles.
They fit the
Loosely,
roles
though. That's my
very
point.
loosely.
Yeah,
And
it's
that's
not-
something that, like, I think it even is a detriment to the movie where even if
This-
you go into it with a
You
meta
have-
mindset going, this is a horror movie, there's going to be these characters, and then they give you half of each of them.
Exactly. You
You're
have
like,
the potential here with you set it in the future. You set it in space. You've done all of this other like groundwork to be able to totally turn the genre on its head and say, we've got all new archetypes. We're not going to follow any of the rules because it's the future.
but they
And
still
instead it was
somewhat
like,
do. There's
Yeah.
still somewhat
Like-
each of these archetypes.
Yeah.
Which I think if you boil everything down to their essence, it's kind of hard to avoid those archetypes because if you have a character, any character at any point is going to satisfy one of those archetypes. It's either the virgin or the person that's had sex. That's a binary characterization. But I think that this movie still tried to attach to those too closely, but not making them interesting. And I mean, under the context of the fact that I think this movie seemed like it was structured in such a way that it's making the victims the protagonists, it didn't make any of them interesting.
No.
Because of that, it didn't make any of the protagonists, didn't make any of the archetypes different in any sort of way.
Yeah.
But it also didn't attach to him in a parodying way like Cabin in the Woods. Where it's like, that is the virgin. That's the pothead. That's the douchebag. Like, there's not that.
The whole mid-movie, like, we're gonna, get to where we need to be and save the day thing with Solaris before what was the verbiage you used?
Don't remember.
Okay, good.
The downside of being drunk while watching this movie.
The spaceship hits the space station and blows up the space station. The spaceship still keeps going.
Yeah.
And it was like...
Oh, you mentioned it was like, wow, that is a fragile spaceship.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, space station. Yeah. Just the whole idea that it was like, that was the mid-movie, like, we're going to save the day early. And then it was like, gotcha. And it was like, no, I mean, come on. Like,
Well, I mean, that's what these movies are all built on. Fake out climaxes.
but
Fake
I
out
wasn't
climax,
faked
climax,
out at
fake
all.
Yeah,
I,
Right.
Nothing about it was like, we're like 15 minutes into this movie. It's
Right,
not
because you've
about to end.
seen movies before.
Yeah, I guess.
But
that comes down to like part of a much broader conversation I would love to get into of how, like, knowing you're watching a movie can ruin the pacing of a movie if you know things are going to happen the way they're going to happen. Because
Yeah,
of the
and
movie.
this one is very much like you mentioned the false conclusions, which is a massive trope to slasher movies where they just
Absolutely.
go, "Hey, look, everything's fine," and then turns out Michael Myers is in the closet. Like
There's a second megalodon.
yeah, it's this just when you're watching a slasher movie, you kind of know that's the thing, especially if you've only been watching it for 30 minutes and then go, everything's safe, everyone's okay. You go, the fuck it is. Like it immediately eliminates the threat. There's
Well, no, it puts you in a state of suspense. You're like, they think they're safe. It's the dramatic irony of, hey, they think they're okay. I know they're not going to be okay. I'm rooting for them to get out of it, but I know that there's danger lurking around the corner that they're not
and
expecting.
you just tipped on the sentence that we have distilled anxiety down to in movies, is that there is the unseen threat. Have you listened to that episode yet?
I haven't.
You
So,
should have listened to that episode.
people who have not seen that episode, we did an episode on
That's
anxiety,
everyone
on
in the
instilling
entire planet.
anxiety in movies. and we distilled it down to the sentence, there is the unseen threat.
Did you talk about Dunkirk?
Much.
Good.
Yeah.
That's
Many.
what
So-
immediately comes to mind for me.
By that, there's a lot of implications with that sentence, that there is the unseen threat. You know what the threat is. In Alien, you know what the alien does. In Quiet Place, you see what the thing does to his child. Like, you know what it is. It's the unseen threat. There is the unseen threat. It's there somewhere. In Alien, it's in the ductwork.
Yeah.
In Quiet Place, it's around. You don't know where
just
it
can't
is.
touch it.
You
Right.
can't touch it. You can't see it. It's there. You know that if one wrong move is going to end your life. There is the unseen threat. That is the distillation of anxiety. And when you come to horror movies are all about anxiety. And slasher movies don't do a fantastic job of doing that. The good ones, the original Halloween, the new Halloween apparently does a good job of this.
I'll need to watch that at some point.
Like,
Will have seen that at some point.
You will have seen. You will. Yeah, you will. Yeah.
Verb tenses get confusing when
Um,
you have more than one beer.
When you get to a slasher, when you watch this, like, there is the unseen threat, which is why when there was that one point in the movie where I just go, this is actually kind of tense. It's because there is the unseen threat. They're like, Jason is there. I don't know how he's gonna break in.
Where's he gonna show up?
Where he's gonna show up? Like,
Coming
I'm
through the
terrified
door?
that
Oh,
there's
he came through a window on a spaceship.
like, had this
Why
movie
do spaceships have
established itself
windows?
as a good enough movie of that this is actually scary, that would have been terrifying. But I did find my heart beating a little bit harder than normally through the rest of the movie, is because I was like, there is the unseen threat. I know what the threat is, I know what they do, and I know he's there.
I guess part of my problem was, at that point when you were feeling that, I thought about, at no point during this film have I ever felt properly threatened by Jason.
That's another thing. It's
I was
because
talking
part
about
of
how
it.
we had I had just watched Silence of the Lambs for the first time a couple weeks ago, and the bait and switch in the third act when he's in the, they played that in the opening scene of the movie, and at no point was it was like, oh snap, where is he? It was like, oh, here he comes. Like, at no point did I ever feel like Jason had like
the upper hand?
no,
He always
no
had the upper
struggle.
hand.
Yeah,
he
he
never
never had
always
the
had the upper hand.
Yeah. There was no point where it was like, oh no, these people aren't gonna die. Like,
And that's
that
why-
there was no suspense there for me, because it was like,
Jason
who's not gonna die? That's what I'm looking forward to in this.
Jason never having having an uphill battle removed any element of anxiety from this movie, because even regardless of which perspective you're going to put the
Well, how many
protagonist,
times did they mention that the dude's been? I mean, the
he's
whole
he's
scene where
history.
he's
he's
been
known.
hanged. He's been electrocuted.
Hung, as they said in
Hanged.
the movie. They said hung.
Did they say hung?
They said hung.
Oh.
I pointed it out. I said, should have been hanged, but I bet he's hung. Because they made a
Yeah.
joke about that earlier with
There
the
you
horny
go.
couple, about Betty's hung, something like that. It was dumb. It's a bad movie.
Firing squad, gassed, everything, and he's still alive. It's like, okay,
And so they still
established-
use projectile weapons against him at his chest.
You've established that this person that is killing everyone on the ship basically is unkillable.
Cool.
We've got no solution.
We've got no. It's literally a.
There's no like, oh snap, the heroes may win. It's
I've-
just escape.
I have a solution. We could alien him. We could just shoot him out the airlock.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Which is also
They
the
had an-
argument for any time Superman fights anyone is why don't you just pick them up and throw them at the sun? Why,
To be fair-
why does Superman try
Yeah,
with
DC
anyone?
man. Why
Throw him
why
at the
doesn't he
sun.
just throw them at the sun?
To be fair, Green Lantern was used to restart the sun and still lived. And he's a human. So there's an element of in DC that is just like
I don't think Doomsday would survive if you threw him into
Doomsday
the
it
sun.
would. If Superman would survive something, Doomsday would as well. Doomsday is. Do you know the history of Doomsday? Moving on.
I
So,
feel like
Jason
Superman
X.
vinced him pretty good in Death of Superman, didn't he? Wasn't that the whole point of that?
They punch the shit out of each other.
Right, and then they vinced each other. They're not invincible.
Oh, shut up. So Jason X.
Make an actual
Okay,
point
but
too.
why don't you shoot Jason X or Jason into space. Just put him in an airlock. I mean,
Well, that's
Because the alien.
the opening scene of the movie, she tricked him into getting into the cryo chamber to advance the plot. Put him in an airlock.
That's
He did it
a-
once already.
That's an element of the movie that
That would've
just
been a
was a
really great
detriment to
payoff,
the movie as a
honestly.
whole. Is that the fact that they had this very easy solution, but they never addressed why they can't do it.
Yep.
There's a restriction. There's a restriction in Quiet Place
Mm-hmm.
of that. Why can't we just get rid of the aliens? Any restriction or any freedom that a character has in a horror movie, there needs to be a reason why there's a restriction. Whether
Yep.
they don't know what it is,
Mm-hmm.
which was very established early on, that they know absolutely what Jason Voorhees is, or some reason they can't eject him into space.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it'd be like something early on where they established that, he's got a spacesuit on with a jetpack, so if we eject him, he's gonna come back.
He'll come
Like,
back and get us.
it's putting him in space. Like I mean, flashing back to the fact that I mentioned early on that this is an interesting concept.
Mm-hmm.
Putting in this premise that he would survive, and if he had a jetpack, the premise of him being in space negates any. There's a discontinuity between. Or incontinuity between
It's discontinuity.
where he is and what they can do with him.
Mm-hmm.
That one would negate the other,
Right.
and that's what makes this. That's
Yeah.
what this movie I don't think could have been made good.
No. There's
Not when they're operating under the premise that we're going to do a classic slasher, but on a spaceship.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that some broader points that I wrote down was like the set design I was actually impressed by.
Yeah,
it's
that
really
was mentioned
solid,
by a
given the
member of our
budget.
crew that like
Mhm.
it was literally like you could see the passion that was put into it.
Yeah.
The try, like the producer, like it was made by New Line, which by the way made Lord of the Rings.
Same
even
year.
Even though the same year, past 3 years, even though this movie wasn't special effects by Weepa, it was still
Special
Wepa?
effects by
best special effects by
all the film people are cringing
by
really
Weepa.
hard.
Weepa? Weta. No.
Yeah, it's a
Is it a T?
100%.
Weepa!
Yeah.
Weepa!
I feel like it's Wepa.
You can feel that all day. It's wrong.
All right.
You just said
Weta
Weepa. First of all.
Wepa,
Weta.
whatever. Weta Studios. I do know that they use Skywalker sound. That I do know. I watched all the special effects of. I'm looking at Andrew behind the camera right now. I watched the special effects. One letter on.
special effects.
Fuck. Dude, we're drunk. Give me a break.
You're trying to build up to something, and I don't know what it is, but it's going really badly for you, and I love it.
Anyways, the effects on
The effects
for
were
the
good.
most part were okay.
It's similar to how now I'm being able to identify the difference between bad acting and bad directing.
Yes.
Where the special effects and the set dressing, like having it brought to my attention by one of our crew, is that it's pretty good.
You know,
Like-
given it's a 2001 movie with a pretty limited budget, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
It wasn't
not
awful.
terrible.
I thought the one effect that I was the
So
most
sweaty.
impressed by. Yeah, just take it out. The one effect that I was the most impressed by was like the nanites when they were on the table moving.
Yeah.
Once they hit the body, it was like ooh. But like when they were on the table moving by themselves,
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
okay, that looks pretty good.
And in fairness, that's a pretty easy effect to do.
Yeah,
But-
but the people that were involved in it cared about trying to make a good movie. Given
Mhm.
a bad direction, they did what they could. That's why
Yes.
that's the reason I equated it to bad acting, bad directing. Is
Yeah.
an actor can do what they can. A good actor can do what they can with bad directing.
Yeah.
I want you to say it in this way, and the actor goes, "That doesn't make any sense, but fine, I'll deliver it in that way that you want it to be delivered."
That's
And so-
one of the reasons why I stand by it, that Hayden Christensen is not the problem with.
That
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely not.
And we talked about it in New Mutants that like there was some lines that go, all right, that's a pretty good deliver of that line. Doesn't make any fucking sense, but like it's a good delivered line. And I think that can translate to any element of movies. We're not a technically knowledgeable people. All technically knowledgeable people are right there. That
Watching us make fools of ourselves.
that-
Thanks, gentlemen.
that delivering the expectation is not hard because the director expects a certain thing, and they're like, all right, I'll make those special effects look fine for being 2001 without the $100,000 budget, $1 million budget of what was the? Do you know the budget of Lord of the Rings movies?
It's about 10 times the budget of this, at least.
10 times the budget of this?
No,
Or of Jason
Oh,
X?
that.
I was like, the budget of this is
What
zero.
is our budget?
10 infinity times.
No,
the budget of
but
this.
substantially more.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
given the restrictions that they had, it was not terrible.
Yeah.
Like there obviously the spaceships looked bad.
the VR sequence was really bad.
Oh, I mean it's
Yeah.
like
But
It was almost kind of supposed to be.
it's well, how do you make a person get slashed across their body and
But here's
fall
the
over
thing,
and make
here's
it
the
look
thing.
normal?
To me, though, all of the practical effects were the most incredible thing. When he stuck her head into the little CO2 thing,
That looked good.
That was pretty good.
and her face froze, I was blown away. I have no idea how they did that. That was fantastic. All the physical, practical effects were great.
Yeah.
It was as soon as you put a computer in there, it was like, ooh.
I mean like
Yeah.
this was 2001. And when they would show a spaceship, it would
Okay,
remind
again,
me of
Star
like
Wars came out
1979,
77.
77. Fuck! I never remember.
You're really bad at those.
I'm really bad at this. 77 and the opening credits, like the spaceships that go across, look better than the round spaceship that was in this movie.
Phantom Menace came out 2 years before this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Phantom
mean,
Menace had
well,
15 times
Attack
the
of the
budget
Clones
this.
came out this
Yes.
year.
2002.
We got a crew like unanimous nod at that claim. It's, I
I
mean,
just mean, like, obviously, and Matt's totally right. Budget,
I always am.
budget with what the effects are going to
Yeah.
look
well,
like.
yeah. Look at Game of Thrones, and they're like, yeah, we've got maybe $20 for the first season, but compared to the last
Yeah.
season, which
And then $40.
Game of Thrones is an amazing case study on budget may not entirely matter.
Yeah.
You can make a great season on low budget
Mm-hmm.
and then fuck it up with the huge
Okay.
budget in
Low
season
budget.
8.
Okay,
We'll
okay,
say
wait, hold
low
on. Here's a question, though. Like you guys talked about in 149 with Iron Man. The Iron Man was basically made with no script.
Yeah.
And all of the money went towards coupled with the strike that was happening.
Yeah.
All of the money went towards the effects.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all think they spent money on this script?
No.
No, this
Y'all
is
think
this
they
is
spent
literally
any
yeah.
money at all on anything besides
this
set
was-
The
and
pitch
effects?
meeting for this was the production that they went in there and said, hey, we're gonna put Jason in space. It'll make 5 times its budget. Done.
Watching this movie, I understood why every time I pitch an idea or a concept to Andrew, he starts to just like spew these questions about like, what about this? Why are they doing this thing? And it
Well,
makes
that
sense
me
because
feel good.
this is a first draft. This is like this guy had this idea. It's like, oh, he's in space and people are trying to.
Oh yeah, no, this
Get
movie
away from him.
100% was a first draft. There
Yeah.
was no beyond the first draft process for this movie.
And I don't think they give a shit.
No,
No,
The
of course
the
not.
point of this, like the
I'm gonna look up the
development of this
budget
movie-
numbers, but
The development of this movie was, let's just put Jason in a different place, and space happened to be the one that was big in 2001. Like
Yes.
there was, I mean, it had
space was the big thing in 2001: A Space Odyssey.
I was
That
hoping
came out before
it did.
2001.
I was trying to find a better version of that joke, and that kind of just blew my shot. I'm
Like
sorry.
it was. There's a lot of stuff. I would argue that since 1985, sci-fi space things have become more and more and more and more popular.
That's at 80.
When's the? I guess we can't look it up. If someone can look it up elsewhere, when the previous Friday the 13th came out, which is Jason in Hell. I'm assuming it's Jason in Hell. I'm not
I
entirely
thought
sure.
Jason Hell was before this one.
It was.
I thought this was the movie that killed Jason. Like this was the movie that ended the franchise. This movie was.
Was it?
I think it was.
I know so
I
little about
think
this
this
movie.
movie
I
was
should have
so
researched it.
bad that this is what killed the Jason franchise.
Yeah, this
until
one-
this recent one.
This one actually didn't make movie. Make money.
Make movie. This one didn't make movie.
This movie
Honestly,
did make
did it?
movie. No movie.
No movie here. No, it was. It had about $11 million budget and made just over 17 million worldwide.
That is so okay. Briefly looking at
I think we look at that number and go, it only made $7 million.
well, given
Well,
the
so
budget it
It
had.
only made $7 million.
No. So when you
I know. I'm just saying. $7 million.
Wish I had $7
no,
million.
it didn't make
Exactly.
$7 million. It made $7 million against the accounted for budget, which doesn't include marketing and distribution
That's very
costs.
fair.
Yeah.
Marketing
So
is always
it
more.
lost
I know
probably $5 million.
that. That's probably fair. Yeah.
So, looking at a slasher. Oh, when did this?
I moved it. I put the glove on a little while ago.
Why?
Do you not remember
So-
me
No.
touching you with it?
That happened.
Okay. Okay. So, looking at this movie, so we know that the character, one of the big reasons that the movie failed is because it doesn't know what it wants the protagonist to be.
Yep.
The victims or the murderer. And so, like, I mean,
No,
to give a better example of that, you look at the first Halloween, Jamie Lee Curtis is the protagonist.
Mhm.
This terrified victim of this mysterious guy who just has a blank mask and murders people.
I
She
feel like
is the protagonist. Is this a Tenet crossover?
I haven't seen Tenet yet. Don't spoil it.
The main character's
I
the
let
protagonist.
The main character's name is protagonist.
He's credited as protagonist. This is
Moving on, that's not the movie we're
Anyways.
talking about.
keep doing that, Carter. We don't need you for
Okay,
this.
here's my thing. Here's my thing with this movie. Boiled down, I don't even feel like we can make any kind of critical assessment of it in any kind of way because this movie, at its core, was entirely half-baked from the get-go. Nothing about this movie in any way makes me go, okay, we can take a critical lens to this and look at this movie in a way that we can dissect it. Because I'm just looking at it going, I didn't even get anything out of that. On
So-
no level did I get any kind of reaction.
I'm going to argue, for the sake of discussion, a counterpoint to that, using what I think the movie was attempting to use as a protagonist. Is the character that's from 2010.
Yes.
The movie came out in
I'd
2021.
agree with
2001,
that.
Cute girl.
Is that she is both in a threatening situation and an uncomfortable situation. There's nothing about her situation that makes her feel normal. She is now in this fucking spaceship 300 years in the future.
Which apparently she
We
knows-
didn't get it. No, we didn't get it. But the
Because
point
apparently
was,
she knows how it works better than anyone else on the
I
spaceship.
missed that line. You made a
There
comment
were
about
there
it.
were a couple scenes where she was like, "Oh, we can do this thing, and that'll save us."
Blow up the bridges.
Yeah, and everyone else is like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
blow
why
up the
didn't we think of
bridges.
that?"
Like,
A tangent with that. I loved the moment where she was just like, what was the comment?
Can you beam us up?
Beam us up. He's like, beam us up. Like that was such a good.
That was good.
I
That was the
genuinely-
one, like,
I genuinely
solid
really
moment
liked
of the
that.
movie.
Well,
a
and
good
the
moment.
solid face moment when her face was solidified in the cold ice.
What,
Hey.
proving you wrong? Like that's the one moment I liked, except this one and this one and this one and this one. No, but that was a tangent just to say that, like, acknowledging the fact that somewhat of a meta line
Mm-hmm.
was pretty funny. But what was my point? I distracted myself.
Yep. So you were saying something about characters, and if we assume that she's the protagonist,
Right. If we assume this protagonist, there's something good about that plot. There's a good movie. So you and I have said the line. You've said it more times than I have, but I said it recently about Twilight.
Yeah.
Of there's a good movie in there somewhere.
Mhm.
There's not a good movie in there somewhere.
No.
Not at all.
But you distill it down to a point to a couple sentence line of what this movie's about,
Mhm.
and you can grow. God, excuse me. You can grow a good movie out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and like the whole idea behind like Skyfall as a movie, in that it strips away all of the like bondiness of James Bond. The final third act is literally just it's James Bond as a character up against Javier Bardem. I don't remember his name as a character.
Wait, Javier Bardem's in that movie?
Yeah.
I feel like you say that just every time you find out Javier Bardem's in a movie.
No, you literally said that.
that was me,
about
wasn't
Dune.
it? Yeah. That really came back to bite me. Okay.
Anyway,
We got to put you through some Bond movies, buddy.
this movie had the potential to go, okay, we've established through the previous 9 movies
Apparently.
of
I mean, that's why it's called Jason X, right? I'm just making
Maybe.
an assumption here.
Maybe.
I
Are
was-
there 9 more movies before this movie?
I was
You know what?
figuring. I
I'll
was
look it up.
figuring they had gone with X because
We have done
X
no
is
research about
space.
this
I
movie.
assumed that was
Anyways.
the reason. but I'll
Anyways,
look it
this
up.
movie had the potential to strip everything away from Jason as a character because you put him in space in the future and say, okay, he has no one that he knows anything about. He's in a completely new place. He has nothing to hold on to. Also, none of the people in this movie, in this cyclical plot, know anything about Jason. We're going to strip everything away and create something good. There was the potential for a good movie in
Yeah.
there somewhere, but this movie had nothing.
It didn't.
of
It didn't even get close.
No.
I just want to say I googled Jason Voorhees, and the third image result that came up was just Stephen King's face. Don't know why.
All right. But I mean, if you look at if someone comes to you and they're like, I want to make a movie with Jason Voorhees, and it's like 1990, and the movie's had probably 6 movies by that point, and you're like, all right, it's gonna be terrible. It's gonna be the same thing as everything because pretty much every movie
I guess
from
yeah,
2
you're
to
right.
9
You're
or from
right.
2 to 10 is garbage, and they go, all right, what are you gonna do different?
This movie
And
had
they go,
nothing to.
Space and future. And they go, okay, really unique like location. Let's see what you do.
We are looking.
We're
at this.
gonna give you 1 year to write this script. And then they come to him at 363 days and say, this is my script. And they go, we can't fucking change it. It's terrible, but we gotta do it.
We are looking at this as a post Nolan, post Steven Spielberg, kind of sloping off.
Post Steven Spielberg. I would argue that 2000 is post good Steven Spielberg.
Okay, then fine. Also, post Shyamalan, post everything. We're looking at this from the 2020 perspective of what this movie.
When was
should have
Unbreakable?
96?
So, 2001 is still post Shyamalan.
been. Okay, I don't fucking just anyway.
Is there any good Shyamalan movies that came out after 2000?
We're looking at this movie 20
Split.
years on.
All right, I'll let that slide. Split's pretty good.
Okay,
Yes, this was Jason 10, by the way.
Jason
was.
10. Okay,
Yep.
we're looking at this movie 20 years on from it, which is also looking at the movie industry 20 years on. We're looking at this movie as, wow, this just had nothing to offer. And
Yeah.
I think it does boil down to the entire point of this movie was to just be a movie. This movie had nothing going for it, and they knew it when they made it.
Mhm.
They knew when this script slid across whomever's desk, and he said, "A, it's in space, and A, it's in the future. Let me get my big old, I don't know who made this movie. Who made this movie?
It was a new line.
New line.
New Line Cinema stamp and just smack it on this script and throw it in the movie making furnace to get some product. That is all this movie was ever intended to be.
Yeah.
This movie never was meant to be looked at with a critical eye.
Yeah.
This
I
movie
wanna-
was never intended to be looked at in any way that we're looking at.
I want to argue against that, but the fact that you work in lifestyle, or was it Lifetime movies that are not intended to be Oscar movies, there's just an acceptance of it's a shit movie, but it's a movie. Make it
Exactly.
happen.
It's fun.
Put
It's
it out
entertaining.
there.
Yeah.
This was
No.
also pre-movie industry, needing to get conservative with their studios and the things that are being made and scripts and everything. This was just, we got money to blow. 9/11 hasn't happened yet. The
Wait, are
American
you saying
dream-
are you
okay.
saying the movie studios are inside on 9/11?
What I'm saying is, the American economy in every way possible pre 9/11 was just excess. We beat the Soviets. We're the best country on earth. We got no one to rival us. We're going to make crap movies that people will go see. And then they'll go to McDonald's with their family afterwards and hop in their swimming pool at home and then go inside and watch more movies from Blockbuster and eat Orville Redenbacher popcorn and then go to sleep and do it all the next day.
I think
that was America in 2000.
I think you just described my American dream.
There you go. That's all this movie was ever intended to be.
Because you're white. Not getting political.
Because I like popcorn and bad movies
Exactly.
and swimming pools.
There's nothing to this movie. It's not even like they tried to make a good movie. That's what's so disappointing about
Well,
it.
that's the thing. I think that there is saying that they, like the collective they, didn't try to make a good movie. I think is a little bit neglectful of the people that worked on it. The lower
Oh,
people.
I think
No,
that's what I
they
mean,
put
with
in the
set
effort.
design.
The concept.
The best thing that we all
Yeah.
agree we saw during the movie was the set design.
Yeah.
The costumes, the set. I was it being a spaceship movie. I mean, especially talking about the budget that this movie probably had. The
$11
sets,
million.
I was impressed by. I pointed out that even the guns, as much as I just ranted about the guns they were using, those aren't a reused prop. It's not just Doctor Who where it's it's supposed to be the future. He's got an AK-47.
Yeah.
It's they were actual guns they made for the props, the sets, everything like that. That I was impressed by. That's where the passion was put into this movie.
Mm-hmm.
All of the practical effects, everything that we say that we were actually impressed by. That's where the passion was.
Yeah.
The script, the actual cinematography, the actual meat of the movie.
There was a few good shots. There was a few that I liked, and there was a few that I noticed that crew members were like, that's a pretty good shot. Like that's an alright one, I think.
It was mostly, there was that hallway shot.
Yeah.
I think art department built a really good hallway, and any DP worth his balls would be like,
We're using that.
yeah.
So yeah, there was effort put in by every department.
I'm just
To
looking
make
at this
the
from the
thing is-
consumer perspective.
Yeah, and that's something that we're talking about something that's
if we're getting deeper, but
we got to get deeper because if we
Yeah.
look at it from purely a consumer, we could just be like, this is a bad movie, but what's bad, what's good?
this movie is objectively bad.
Oh, I agree. But if you fit it into the little box it's supposed to fit in of just this is surface level consumer entertainment, it kind of serves its purpose.
From the
It's-
consumer perspective,
Yeah.
this is filling the role of if a group of 16-year-olds in 2000 over that summer probably went and saw it, probably had a great time.
Yeah.
There was probably some making out that happened, and I'm a little scared, and that was all this movie was ever
7.5
amounted to be.
babies were made to this movie.
Probably. Probably.
I'm gonna let you just infer what the half meant, but this is, you go to a Jason movie. Jason 1 is not a fantastic movie. Not Jason 1. Friday the 13th is not a fantastic movie, but it's a fine movie. There's a reason 9 movies came from it. That it
12.
There's more after. There's more
this
after.
wasn't
There's-
the one that killed it?
No, there was Freddy vs. Jason in 2003, and then there was a reboot in 2009.
That one follows Freddy though. The first one, the
Okay.
Freddy vs. Jason follows Freddy, and then there's 2009, and I think they're working on a reboot right now.
But
I'm sure they are.
This was effectively.
This was
movie
the
that
last one of
killed
the direct continued franchise. Yeah.
Well, how they're like Halloween. They just did Halloween, which is the second movie of the raw original franchise.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at all of the movies that came after Halloween, the first one from, God, what?
1970.
I was gonna say 80s,
The original Halloween is 77, I think.
77. So, the new Halloween is the sequel to the 77 movie.
Maybe 79.
Yeah, I knew that.
And I think the one they're working on right now is intended to be the sequel to either the first one or the second one of the Friday the 13th. But you go to these movies and you're just like, the intent is there's this guy with a hockey mask that just murders people. I don't care about watching it. I'm gonna eat some milk duds and spend the entire movie trying to get the milk dud out of my right molar. That's the intent of this movie. And people, if you went to see this in a theater, that's what you expected. Well, no, that's what you expected. You went to see it in the theater. This is what you expected, and you got it. You got some gratuitous, interesting murder, and to the benefit of the movie, the VR scene where the two people got murdered, but it wasn't actually murder. It was fun little VR murder where the guy got his head caught him and he's like, all right, we should call it, that kind of thing. It's just that's a little fun. And if you just want to see machetes go through human bodies, you get what you're paying for.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I mean, from perspective of us who like to watch critically acclaimed movie, you can watch Blade Runner 2049 with a casual moviegoer perspective.
You need to find a go-to for your critically acclaimed movie that has a shorter title, because Blade Runner 2049 has a lot of syllables.
I understand
and you
2049.
keep saying that.
Yeah, I do.
You gotta watch like Roma or something. And,
I do need to watch Roma.
Yeah.
But you watch those movies and you can enjoy them as they are, but if you watch them critically, flashing back again for like the 13th time to our Enlightenment episode,
What'd you say? Friday the 13th time? Because it's Saturday. isn't
then
it?
you like if you watch them critically, you understand that they're bad movies. But
Objectively.
I think that there's an element. I think there's a middle line that hasn't been achieved just yet with horror movies, where this is like a cheesy movie, but it's still a well-written movie. Like, I'm reading Dracula right now. There's a really good movie in there. There are a series of movies that's just hasn't been done yet.
Mhm.
Because the story is good, but it still has that element of just like kind of cheesy horror that movies, the original Halloween maybe reached it. The new Halloween probably did a pretty good job. Friday the Third or not Nightmare on Elm Street is apparently an amazing movie. I haven't seen it.
No, Nightmare on Elm Street's pretty bad.
Is it bad?
Yeah,
I've heard that it's good.
it's bad.
Well, I'll find out for myself.
Johnny Depp in the first one?
No, yes.
Yes, he is.
Yes, he is. He's really young. But there's... I don't know. I'm just going to keep regurgitating my same point.
Yeah.
There's a good movie that is to be made with a horror slasher movie,
Mhm.
but there's just not a... there's a cultural acceptance of slasher movies being these cheesy, just like blood
But
spurting
not
movies.
anymore. That's the thing. That was my whole
In
point.
2001 they were.
In
But
2001, yes. In 2001, this movie did exactly what it was supposed to do.
Mhm.
In our eyes today, if this movie came out last year, we would all stare at it and go, okay, this is going directly to Amazon Prime and will be
Yes.
on there to purchase for 99 cents.
Instead,
and
People
we
would go
watched
watch
this
the-
movie
yeah.
rented on YouTube.
for $3.
yeah. People would go
See?
watch this movie ironically if it came out today. They'd be
Yeah.
like, this is the 10th movie in a franchise and they're sending the slasher villain to space.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
what I mean. There's no way. I mean, I guess I say there's no way we get 10 movies or something like this, but then we have Fast and Furious.
Snap.
9 movies only, so well, I guess
The
And a
10th one is in
spin-off.
development,
And a
yeah.
Yeah.
spin-off.
and a spin-off, Hobbs and Shaw.
And a TV show, kids TV show.
Oh no.
There's a kids TV
Oh,
show.
yeah, no, I watched the first episode of it. Go watch it. Just do it. Just go do it. It's so bad. No.
Oh,
Don't break my glass.
your point.
Don't touch the center.
My point is, within the realm of when this movie was made, within the era and time frame, it did exactly what it was supposed to do.
Mhm.
We are looking at this movie with the context of every other great movie we have seen over the last 10 years, every other great movie we've seen over the last 20 years since this movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
And we look at it and we go, wow, we have to look for things that made the movie good
Yeah.
in deeper context other than face value. Was this a good movie? No, it was not a good movie. We have to go,
Who cares?
the set was good. There was passion, hit it sprinkled in there that we're trying to justify as it being a good movie. That's my point.
It's when you look at a 7th grader's essay in English and you're like,
It's great
terrible
because he was in
writing,
7th grade.
but like, he tried.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or like film students. Andrew gave me such a good look. That's exactly what I was going for. But it's I see your point. The fact that we have to look into the implications of the movie to find good elements of
Yes.
it makes it a bad movie. And that's a grander point to the movie as a whole, is that it's not a good movie regardless of how you look at it. It's just a bad movie.
Still think you're coming at it wrong.
Even though you're
I don't
enjoying
care.
it. Like,
I don't
that's
care.
the thing. That's the thing.
I
It's
just
like,
didn't even enjoy it. That's my point. Is I didn't
Okay.
even enjoy it, and that was beyond like, okay, I'm a little intoxicated, and I know this movie's gonna be bad, and I'm like, my expectations, I dug a hole underneath the floor and put my expectations in that hole and then buried my expectations. And I was still like, wow, that was just not at all. There was no payoff, nothing like that. Didn't ever feel any. I'm serious. The only satisfaction that I got for that movie was the first kill. And it was like, whoa, I was surprised by that. And that set the bar so high.
That's a problem.
Nothing else did.
I mean,
And
there's
it's
even
Yeah,
like
it's fair.
just the point of throughout the movie, there's tiny little elements that could have been played to with
Yes.
setup to payoff, like the Azrael.
Exactly.
Why is that guy named Azrael?
No one else had a name like
one
that.
person that's named Azrael in real life.
I have a cousin that's.
No, you don't.
No,
Matt.
you
no,
don't.
you don't. Shut up.
I do have a
There's
cousin named
no
Thor,
one named
though.
Azrael. So naming a character Azrael needs to be addressed. There's a character named Azrael who is the angel of death.
Do
that.
Is that actually proper biblical?
That seems theologically incorrect.
Okay, so
I'm gonna look it up.
I watched Lucifer with my girlfriend. Fantastic show. You both need to watch
I need
it.
to watch. I need to read the comic first.
It's seriously really good. It's great popcorn television, but there's actually good plot to it. It's actually pretty good.
Do you know how many things I have on my watch list?
Angel of Death.
Okay, yeah.
Archangel of Death.
Azrael is the archangel of
If you
death,
fucking name a character the Archangel of Death,
and then they get just.
do something with it.
What do you say? They get baned.
He got banged.
Yeah.
Well,
He got nightfall. Like, that's not... Because I made a theory early on that, it's the Archangel of Death. He's going to be the person that's around for every single person's death. He's going to be somewhat responsible for every death. Not even close.
Nope.
If you're going to name a character a name so weird, like John or Matt or Andrew are so, like, normal names that if you named them that... Like, I said John. That's my middle name. Don't think I did call myself out. Like, if you name someone something so weird, but that it has such a biblical implication, if you name if you make a horror movie and one of the main characters' name is Vishnu, you fucking better bet it's gonna be something about this person involves destruction. Like, it's just
No. See, my thinking is when they were all token up, writing this script in the script room, they're like, yo, let's name someone Azrael, so then smart people think they're gonna play in, and we kill them just totally random.
just like a completely unrelated element of Azrael.
Totally,
Yeah, it's
totally
all
will.
about the nihilism of like messages and points and themes in the movie.
That's
That's the
what
whole
I
thing. It's
wanna believe.
breaking down.
That's
the
that right there is
expectations
what I
of
want to
commentary.
believe about
It is.
this movie.
It is a
there
meta
was-
commentary on people like Preston.
Yes, there was a deeper meaning. When they wrote this movie, they were like, listen, this movie's going to be groundbreaking in 20 years, but not now.
It's because they froze it and they brought it to the future via the magic of YouTube movies for Preston to watch it and get too much out of it and fail and be frustrated by it.
But it's baffling to me.
That's the point. They made it to baffle you.
I just don't even know where to talk about this now. Like, what were my points that I wrote down? I
Yeah,
don't
you
even
had some
remember.
points going on, but it's...
Ugh.
I mean, you see my point, that
I don't.
naming a character... To me, the way that I write stories and concepts is that everything is intentional.
Mhm.
If a character is wearing red,
Mhm.
they're either someone that embodies rage or lust at that exact point. It's something like that. Like, and you can name something that is someone like, again, John, Matt, or Andrew, and it's just kind of this normal name. You can honestly look at like the original, like, the meanings. What's the meaning of the name Andrew? Do you know offhand?
I don't.
Okay. Does
Gift-
anyone? Do you
You're
guys know the
useless.
meaning of your name offhand?
Gift of God.
Yeah, that was mine. So.
Oh. All right. So Nathan and Matt both are gift of God. Play to that. My name Preston
do.
is Latin for the priest's estate.
My name, Carter,
Like-
means one who pushes carts. I'm not kidding. Hey, Carter. I push
So play
carts.
that. It's so unfortunate. But play to that. Play to the name of the characters. Don't just name someone Jeremy because you wanted them fucking named Jeremy, or your friend
Yeah.
Jeremy was like, "I want a cameo in your movie." Like, that's
Don't
for
name
normal
someone
names.
Jason.
That's like, I think Jason's too far gone. But if you name someone Azrael, the Archangel of Death, in a slasher movie,
to
Come
have that be
on.
a total throwaway. Yeah, that's just.
It's fair.
It's like that
It's
is
the
just
future.
baffling.
We need a future-y name. Like,
Yeah.
This was just they didn't put any thought.
Got
into
his arm cut off.
it. Okay, literally, these are my points. Set design, good start. Got to space, ran out of ideas.
Yeah.
Third act made no sense. Done.
Did the first 2 acts make sense?
To me, I feel like we had the intro in the present or the past of the present.
The future.
The future
That's
past of the present past.
Don't even try to verb
Days
tense
of
right
future
now.
past. 2000 of that timeline. And that made
It's
sense.
so ridiculous.
It was so
They use
random.
a future time and then they use a more future time.
I liked though that it was just kind of like there was dialogue that was happening. We hadn't turned the subtitles on yet. Even with them, I wouldn't have known what was going on. It was supposed to just be like rapid and fast. Of
Yeah.
like there's a warden who's taking the Jason for reasons whatever, and then plot point happens. They get frozen. To me, that would have been the point during the freezing to drop your credit sequence in.
Mm-hmm.
That whole long sequence we got to observe the passage of time of 400 years of them being frozen.
It's literally the prelude to the
Yeah,
movie.
that should
Put
have
the
been
prelude
the point.
before the title sequence.
Exactly. Then
Put a
we got
Chopin
to
prelude
space.
over it. Make it.
Shut.
We got to space. We had the we got, and even playing into the idea that I feel like we got too much exposition for the spaceship while they were being defrosted. Was like, if you were gonna set it from the perspective of Jason, you should have just been like, "Oh crap, we're on a spaceship now.
So-
I know nothing about what's going on."
I'm pretty sure
Mentioning-
that's a lot more thinking process than goes through Jason's head. I think he's
Probably.
mostly murder.
Well,
Probably.
again, back to the point I made in the first 10 minutes.
Who
is
was the protagonist here?
whatever his motivation is, you should still establish that.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's the 10th movie of the series,
Mm-hmm.
you should. The viewer should understand, if you're watching this movie alone, should understand what the motivations of the antagonist is.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going under the assumption that Jason is the antagonist. But shit, you made a point that I wanted to add on to, and it's gone now.
Well, this is going well.
It's going pretty well.
We're at an hour 10, so if you guys want to wrap it up.
We've been doing
It's
this for
probably
an hour.
Yeah, we've been
it's
doing it for
probably-
that.
we should probably
Oh,
do it. It's
no.
about- yeah.
We've got a lot of points.
Have any of them been good though?
I like some of them.
My final concluding point is still what my opening point was. And this movie was awful, and there are no redeeming factors of it in any way that could be redeeming within our current context of looking at movies. This movie was made to serve the purpose of being a bad movie to just make some money.
I don't think this movie was made for the purpose of making a bad movie. I think it was a movie that was made for the purpose of entertaining audience.
To make money. There
It's the
was
same
no
reason- Okay, so flashback to I don't know, 1000s, like the 11th century, where the Colosseum, where the point of the Colosseum was just to entertain by means of violence.
That's not when the
First
Colosseum
century.
was. Yeah, that was
Second
Well, the Colosseum
century?
still existed. I don't know
In
when
the
the
second century.
Yeah.
I don't know when that stopped being
Roman
used.
Built
Empire.
74.
Yeah, Roman Empire fell in
It fell in
late 5th
in-
century.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
Yes.
some
Yeah.
70
Flavius and his son built the Colosseum.
We don't know history, and don't.
He
quote
doesn't
us.
know
He
history.
doesn't know
My
history.
views of Latin, it was the 5th century.
Was it the 5th century? For some reason, the number
Preston, you're
72.
dumb.
Yes, I'm.
I
dumb.
get to say that because I was dumb in the last episode.
But the point is, humans sometimes just accept the fact that violent entertainment is entertainment. And viewing a movie like this, Jason X, is it's unproductive to look at it critically.
Yeah.
Because the point of the movie is humans like violence. I mean, flashback to the last probably 4 episodes of our podcast, that humans are entertained by gratuitous violence.
Mhm.
And
It's the attraction to the macabre.
the
Yeah.
macabre.
The McCaffrey.
Macabre.
Is it McCaffrey?
No, it's macabre. You're right.
It's the reason why we slow down and look at crashes on the side of the highway.
Yeah, exactly. And train wrecks and stuff like that. When people say like, "Oh, this is a train wreck," it's because humans naturally have a desire to look at disaster.
Yeah.
And people watch this movie not because the movie itself is a disaster, but the premise of the movie is disaster.
We
There will be
signed up.
disasters
And
on
the-
screen that you will get to enjoy
Yeah.
for $10
That's
pop.
that's the difference here. The people that went and saw this movie signed up for the disaster of Jason killing these people.
No one went to
When we-
Jason X expecting a
We
Tinker
watched this
Tailor
movie.
Soldier Spy level intelligent movie.
You need to come up with a better movie that has a shorter number of syllables.
No!
The people that went and saw this movie signed up to watch Jason kill people.
Yeah.
We signed up to watch this movie be bad.
Yeah.
And I think in both cases,
It's still
we
entertaining.
were fulfilled.
I had a lot of fun with this.
It
I don't
was
know what
it
y'all
was
are talking
and
about.
it was a thoroughly drunken enjoyable moment of 2 hours of just gratuitous violence and unnecessary commentary
Yeah.
and exposition.
much less than 2 hours. It's like
It was like an hour and a half.
it was under
it?
90 minutes, including credits.
Really?
Yeah.
It
Ah,
just felt long because it was dragging.
yeah. There was a
That's
point.
what I mean. Third act made no sense. They ran out of ideas. They were like, no.
But they didn't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my point is that there is there's an aspect of this movie that can be made into a better movie of bringing a character who knows about the violent and I guess immortal history of another character to a place where they're both uncomfortable and in danger.
Mhm.
There's there's a good movie in every. You look at some of like really good Oscar movies, and you're like, if you boil it down to one sentence, who the fuck gave a shit about some high school girl that just wanted to date a guy? Lady Bird. Like, you boil it down to a premise like that, and you're just like, that can't be made into a good movie. But Lady Bird's a great movie. You take a movie like Jason X and you're like, there's a guy who's murdered 200 people. Let's put him in space and in the future.
I'd say Darth Vader, but that was a long, long time ago.
That's true. Like, there's something to be made here. And I think the problem with slashers is the fact that they just accept that people like gratuitous violence and brainless murder. And they get Jason X.
Mm-hmm.
That there is something that can be made with a good movie. Quiet Place is a good, you could argue, slasher movie.
It's in that direction. We'll get into it in our slash. We
Yeah,
will have
but
gotten into it in our slasher episode.
If you
but
take the idea that a slasher movie entails a thing that wants to murder a people, there's so many horror movies. We haven't discussed it yet. I don't know what you're.
I don't know if it would. Well,
But
not
if
the
you
movie
take-
we're talking about.
If you take that sentence, you can apply it to so many interesting premises.
Yeah.
In slashers, and I think that Jason X had an interesting take or a side premise for this genre, and then did not deliver because it had an idea, but then it took a good idea and just put it to a crew that they were just told this is just a slasher movie, just make blood.
Yeah.
And it really sucked. Like, I think that there's an amazing movie to be told of Jason Voorhees in space.
Yeah, but there always is. There's always an amazing movie.
There's always a movie. I mean, yeah. Like,
it's not-
we
it-
run a
yeah.
podcast on pop culture media.
There's
So-
always you can make any premise amazing. You just
Yeah,
but
but this movie didn't do it.
so it was fun.
I
Yeah,
feel like we should look for other low budget slasher style movies that were shot with the premise of being in space. We should find one to compare to this.
yeah. There's got to be several.
There's gotta be some.
We'll find them, and we'll
Alien.
probably do an episode on them. We'll have you on for that one.
Oh, next
But-
time I'm on here, I'm saying it now. Next time I'm on here, we're watching Speed Racer. Because neither one of you have seen it.
All right. Apparently, I'm getting yes from the guest, and then yes from the director of this.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
So,
All right.
It's,
All right.
Maybe we can do that soon. But until then, I think we're pretty much at the conclusion of what we've wanted to say.
I'm really
Yeah.
sweaty. We should wrap this up.
Yeah, we have no fan, we have no air conditioning, and we have
the only
1, 2,
fans
3,
we
4,
have
5
are you.
lights. You pointed at Nathan for that. and
No,
he
I
just
didn't.
has,
I pointed
like,
He's just sitting there really
Where's
unimpressed.
the general point?
He just had like an apathetic look on his face. I think with that, any other last points right before we jump out?
No, please get me out of here.
Follow us on Instagram.
That.
Thank you guys for trudging through this. If you'd like to listen to our normal podcast, we're on Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud. We release every Thursday a 15-minute video segment of our normal podcast. Look forward to these once a month. Booze and Booze, where we watch terrible movies and talk about them drunkenly. If you liked the way we are, we're on iTunes. No, we're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, at Justice Losers Pod for the two that need a handle. But other than that, those are the places we can find. You'll probably find them in the link in the description below. And thanks for watching this. Hope you enjoyed it.
I did.
I didn't.
I am apathetic. Goodbye.